The year was 2024, and on November 5th, despite numerous criminal convictions, an attempt to falsify his previous election, instigation of a coup, and being a serial rapist, Donald Trump was once again elected to become the President of the United States of America. This was very different than 2016. There was no screaming neon-haired feminists to meme upon. Just a collective, silent, overwhelming horror. The majority of the electorate in the world's largest empire voted for a man who admitted to have referenced Hitler on his campaign trail.
They don't like it when I said that, and I never read Mein Kampf. They said, oh, Hitler said that in a much different way.
And had a guide developed by far-right Christian nationalist think tanks to transform the United States from a liberal democracy into a fascistic one. Once the Xanax had worn off and was too expensive to afford anymore, liberal pundits and think tanks began scrambling.
Woke, insisting that people use the term Latinx.
Too far to the left on transgender rights.
You have to say they. No, you have to do this.
Stop with the virtue signaling.
Step away from woke. Focus less on who is woke and more on who is broke.
Who was to blame? Surely, the millions of dollars blown on a giant orb in Las Vegas and an endless stream of paid speaking engagements from all of the top celebrities was enough to convince America that Kamala was brat.
Everything is in context.
The less demure cravers of brunch, oblivious to how genocide live broadcasted to an entire planet, fueled and enabled by the US administration seeking votes, may have led to a large percentage of the electorate being unable to swallow back the trolley problem. Not to mention how a partially unintelligible Joe Biden had not only hidden his clear collapsing mental and physical health, but had also refused to drop out of the race.
I'm staying in the race. I'll beat Donald Trump. I will beat him again in 2020. Oh, by the way, we're going to do it again in 2024.
Or prop up his successor properly. Nonetheless, they seem determined to find the culprit elsewhere.
The progressive era should be over if they want to start winning again.
Did Kamala Harris move too far to the center and alienate some of the base?
It was Joe Rogan, it was Elon Musk getting out those young male voters.
Like clockwork, they turned on the very minorities they claimed to want to defend. Was it Latin Americans who decided to vote for Trump more this time? What about black men? Or speaking of men, dear God.
That was a straight up, like loving energy.
Gen Z males. Surely, they must have heard that Kamala was going to be more horrifying on the border, or the whole most lethal army in the world stuff.
As Commander-in-Chief, I will ensure America always has the strongest, most lethal fighting force in the world.
How could they have not got the memo? Were they too not longing to be brat? Then, all at once, it hit them. Yes, of course. It was the podcasters.
Round two, here we go.
Theo Vaughn, Andrew Schultz, Aiden Ross, and XQC the Canadian, and the biggest of them all, Joe Rogan. Both Vance and Trump appeared on the Joe Rogan podcast right before the election, but Kamala had backed out. Her team was revealed that they would have accepted a 1-hour interview if he had traveled, but it was DiGiorno Joe or nothing. So that was it. The final element that was missing to have Mila Jovovich the election. They had but to find a Joe Rogan of their own. The liberal Joe Rogan project had begun and continues to this day.
They're trying to find their next Joe Rogan.
And is completely and utterly clown shoes. Let's start with the fact that there's already numerous liberal-leaning podcasts and YouTube channels, from Pod Save America to Midas Touch to David Pakman to Brian Taylor Cohen, who all ultimately, even if they have their criticisms of the party, operate principally to support the Democrats and to mock Republicans. As for leftists...
Listen, they pushed out Joe Biden. Of course they'll push me out too, you know? They're kicking us out.
Well, the Democrats aren't really interested in content creators who focus on how housing and healthcare should be a human right, how the military-industrial complex serves as a rotating customer/influencer of the US government, or how that relationship can lead to occupations and materially supporting genocides. They aren't looking for, from the river to the sea, vote Democratic. Joe Rogan is a pathetically bad comedian.
That's what you saw. That's what I saw. You call me a liar? They had a gunfight in the dirt streets. They were fucking savages.
And an incredibly popular podcast host, in large part due to a rotating carousel of guests from UFC fighters to stand-up comics. While he claims to be non-political, the idea of trans people existing broke his brain so badly that he started inviting every far-right reactionary that would validate his own beliefs, and quickly became not only bedfellows, but an honorary member in the intellectual dark web. But this isn't a video on Joe Rogan. Aiming for the ivermectin-addled, rapidly aging millennial and Gen Z demographic who call him daddy may all be dead by the time you can create a blue no matter who clone of him. Younger audiences are watching the likes of Aiden Ross, an XQC.
My contract has no morality clauses. What that means is that I don't have to abide by some morality standard.
Red pill hucksters like Andrew Tate and Fresh and Fit.
We've been through hell together. We had people come at us. We've had death threats at us. People fucking laugh at every time we fucking go through some bullshit. People make allegations on us. People have tried to absolutely fucking destroy us. And you know who was around me the whole fucking time? These fucking guys.
Streamers and TikTok influencers with massive platforms, no censors or editors, with a penchant for attacking the most vulnerable members of society to please the cackling male youth audience.
Billions of people just living out their lives, oblivious.
In April of 2025, it was reported that the most viewed streamer in the entire world based on watch time hours was this man.
Oh, shit! He's on my belly. Look at him. He's right there. Oh, God. Get him out of me. What are you doing, bro? Get out of my... Go in the garbage can.
This was the height of our civilization. If we were to be judged solely on our ability to crown a champion of the digital age, I fear we would never see the kingdom of heaven. For those completely unfamiliar with any of this, you may at this point already think I'm trolling you, that this is a Rick rolling of sorts.
I have a single-digit number of actual real teeth left.
But I assure you, this is our timeline and reality.
Better.
You don't got shit, Black Mirror, you broke-ass testicle trying to scare us.
Oh no, I hope the future doesn't have the ability to relive some of the most profound and beautiful moments of our past.
We build nuclear power plants for data centers so Israel can use Where's Daddy AI to target the largest amount of children to murder. The most famous person to come out of the internet is the unmummified version of the Saw doll, who somehow loves torture more, and the most watched streamer looks like the after photo of Mr. Beast surviving his own self-induced torture. So if this is the largest influencer in the streamer world, with the biggest platform to mold his young fans into the future men of society, what exactly is he teaching them? Even more disturbing is the fact that most parents, or older, not terminally online folk, don't even know who he is. Joe Rogan may be a household name, but no one is asking after Trump won, where was the liberal Asmongold? He was barely mentioned in the discourse surrounding how young Gen Z men had moved further right, influenced by things like the Manosphere, Andrew Tate, and Tucker Carlson's obsession with smoking his balls into a brisket to own the libs. And we haven't even begun to scratch the gumblood and dead rat alarm clock surface with this vile creature.
What happened is that a rat got in there and it died. And so I was like, man, this smells really bad. We've got to deal with this problem with the dead rat in that room. So I closed the door. And that was pretty much about it.
Asmongold is the closest living thing to Cronenbergian creation, surviving in conditions that would kill most life forms, making him not only one of the most revolting public figures on the inside, but on the outside as well. How did we get here? And can he be stopped?
Well, stay tuned because we're going to be telling the complete Asmongold story through the tried and tested method of obnoxiously self-indulgent video YouTube essays.
Zach White's beginnings are a meritocratic nerd's wet dream.
Got a job.
Got a job.
Just call the IRS.
Got a start.
Gotta call the IRS. Got a job.
The IRS has seasonal and temporary positions open right now, starting at over $10 an hour.
While working as an internal revenue service agent in Austin, Texas, Zach began uploading videos based on his one true passion: World of Warcraft. He became obsessed with the online MMORPG and dedicated himself to learning everything about the game. Hours upon hours of grinding and flawless raid coordinations eventually made him a competitive force in the WoW sphere. In 2014, he started posting guides and tutorials to the game on YouTube.
What's up, y'all? Guess who? That's right, it's me. It's your boy Asmongold. Today, I'm going to show y'all how to get the Drake of the South Wind. That's the amount that drops from Alakir in Throne of the Four Winds in Oldham.
And while it seems like the most normal thing in the world to do today, back then, there wasn't a surplus of how-to videos related to WoW. And unlike the other ones that were around, he was unique in making the content entertaining.
What's up, y'all? It's me. It's your boy Asmongold. What's up, y'all? It's me. It's your boy Asmongold. What's up, y'all? It's me. It's your boy Asmongold. What's up, y'all? It's me. It's your boy Asmongold. But to be the best, you have to be obsessed. Do you want to be obsessed with the game? If the answer is yes, then do it. 12 to 18 hours a day, that's what it's going to take to be the best.
His guy that naturally feels like one of your buddies persona gained him a cult following that eventually began to grow rapidly. What was unique about his channel was his style of complaining.
And I want to make sure that the kids that are my age whenever I started playing the game, the kids that are 16 now, 14 now, even maybe 20 or however old they are, I want to make sure that they're able to experience the same thing that I experienced whenever I started the game.
He loved the games developed by Blizzard so much that he would often fiercely critique the company, trying to push the developers to listen to him and his community in order to make the products from Diablo to Overwatch more of what they wanted to see.
I'm probably not going to be as animated as I was besides that fucking moth, because I took a nap earlier today, and that nap lasted for 9 hours.
Eventually, he moved to the Twitch streaming platform and struggled for a few years to build an audience large enough to sustain him financially.
What's up, y'all? It's me, it's your boy Asmongold, and today I've kind of got a little bit of an announcement to make, is that I'm going to start streaming.
But hard work and slurs paid off, as he would break 100,000 followers by 2016. By the time World of Warcraft Classic was released in 2019, he would hit over 260,000 concurrent viewers on stream, making him not only one of the largest streamers ever on Twitch, but one of the biggest in internet history. While it would be easy to discount his success as simply being one of the first people to consistently upload World of Warcraft related content and do it with flair, a large reason for his success was his candid streaming style, often divulging personal information and stories related to his own life, and cracking jokes which garnered him a massive fan base of people who never saw him as an internet celebrity or influencer, but just a gamer that they could be friends with.
Whenever I would see would have sleep. It's just like, I've been to college, like I go to college right now. I live in Texas. It's hot, okay? I go to college, and less than 10% of the girls there are wearing the same clothes that the female streamers are wearing on Twitch, more than I'd say 80% easily. Okay, why is that? You're in your house. Like, what is your is your house the sun?
His content was almost exclusively related to gaming, and his fans formed a parasocial relationship with the world's premier WoW streamer. Eventually, he would launch the management company One True King that signed numerous other major name streamers like Mizkif and Tectone under their management. He would also launch an online custom PC store called Starforge Systems, which initially received criticism due to its very high prices, but nonetheless became enormously successful in the casual and pro gaming market due to its founder being one of the largest professional gamers in history. Without question, Asmongold had become an obscenely wealthy titan of the industry, dominating the online gaming entertainment market from all corners. In only a few years, the name Asmongold was not only synonymous with MMORPG gaming culture, but the Twitch platform itself. And speaking of what's in a name, we need to talk about what his character was called within the game.
Death crept nearer, and the void called out to Alleria, begging her to give over her soul entirely and become a manifestation of power even greater than her sister. It was tempting. Oh, it was tempting. Abandon your flesh, came the whispers. Abandon your flesh. Alleria hearing the call of the void.
In a tutorial video uploaded in 2015 entitled Warlords of Draenor Power Leveling Guide 90 to 100 in 5 to 8 hours, you might be slightly confused by some of the comments. While most are related to the guide itself, some are curious as to why Asmongold named his mage Anders Nordic.
In 2011, during just one afternoon, Anders Breivik embarked on a murderous rampage that would send shockwaves around the globe.
We all had this sensation that an act of war was really taking place.
In 2011, a neo-Nazi named Anders Breivik committed the largest attack on civilians in Norway since the Second World War, first by detonating a bomb, and then subsequently by shooting and killing another 69 people. He claimed his main motivation for the attack was feminism and Islam destroying European culture, and called for the mass deportation of all Muslims from the country. In a bizarre moment of the trial, the defense showed photos of a character he had created in the popular video game World of Warcraft. Apparently, he had pretended to be addicted to the video game as a smokescreen to distract his mother, whom he was living with at the time, from his real goal of planning the massacre. As Anders sat in the courtroom smiling, on screen was his username for the world to see, Anders Nordic. When someone on Reddit pointed this out, Zach himself replied with the following statement.
It's my version of inappropriate and dark humor. Don't worry, I'm not some kind of white supremacist or whatever. If you're Norwegian, I'm assuming you don't play in the US realms, but if you do, feel free to report the name, and if it violates the rules, I'm sure it does somehow, then I'll have to change it. I've made tons of videos on YouTube, some of which were linked on Reddit, talking about how much I care about following the rules, and in general voicing a dislike for certain things. It would be very hypocritical for me not to extend that same option to you.
Apparently at the time, he was more concerned about following the regional terms of service than the possibility that someone from Norway may be upset that he invoked the most prolific mass murderer in the nation's history. There's no evidence that Asmongold was somehow inspired or agreed with the manifesto of the shooter, and it could be that he simply meant the entire thing to be an offensive joke. Keep in mind, however, that at this time Zach was 25 years old, so this wasn't simply the edgy humor of a teenage boy.
It wasn't like some sort of like really poetic thing, like the mountains of skulls and rivers of blood or something like that. It's like, I think that he could have come up with that on his own, but he really, to me, looks like the kind of guy that would play Warcraft. And it gets me to thinking, it's like, you know, did I ninja a mount from this guy? Have I lended my hand in this madness? But I don't think so. Either way, it's kind of weird to think that, you know, you could maybe be playing WoW with you know, somebody that turns out to be a serial killer, and you know, like they had the guy from Norway who played WoW, and now there's this guy too.
Despite having a large younger audience, he still thought it would be appropriate to name his character after a neo-Nazi whose victims were mostly teenagers themselves. Despite this, Asmongold didn't really face much public scrutiny until a clip of him went viral in August of 2017, where he spoke about the victims of Hurricane Katrina.
I hold her hand. Jennifer cries and wipes away tears as she tries to get information that may help to reunite him with his wife.
Yes, my kid. What's your wife's name in case we can put this out there?
Tony Jackson.
Okay, and what's your name?
Hardy Jackson.
Where are you guys going?
We ain't got nowhere to go, nowhere I'm going. I'm lost.
In 2005, the fourth most intense Atlantic hurricane to make landfall in the US hit and flooded 80% of New Orleans, killing 1,392 people and causing $125 billion in damage. In a city where 60% of the population is black and much of their community was disproportionately economically disadvantaged, the effects of the disaster were especially devastating. Low-income housing was well below sea level, and a shocking 400,000 residents did not own a car. The tropical hurricane put into focus the racial inequality present in America.
Although up to 1.7 million people were evacuated in Louisiana alone, hundreds of thousands of people were stranded during the hurricane. This wasn't necessarily by choice, and as Vox writes, this was because they were too poor to afford a car or bus fare to leave. Plus, the hurricane evacuation plan stipulated that the main way people should evacuate the city was in their own vehicle.
And George Bush became heavily criticized for his handling of the event. Eventually, it would lead to the single largest displacement event in US history, impacting over 1 million people, 33% of whom were black. While 71% of non-black residents would eventually return to the city, only 51% of black residents were capable of doing so.
Now, I was in high school at the time that Hurricane Katrina happened. And a lot of the displaced people from Hurricane Katrina went to my high school. And they would all wear the same t-shirts, and they were fucking animals. Every single one of them. Honestly, the hurricane could have done a better job. I fucking hated him.
This led to his first temporary suspension on Twitch due to harassment, leading him to respond in a tweet-longer post. In it, he rejected the notion that he should have been suspended, saying,
"Assuming the ban is legit, I would guess that it's either from making a joke about Hurricane Katrina or for being rude to people in one of my viewer raids. I don't feel like it violated any of the stated rules in the Code of Conduct and TOS. I'm very diligent in knowing what the rules are, so I don't accidentally break them. And whenever I say anything that might be a bit edgy, I always keep them in the front of my mind. I often use a lot of black humor and satire in my streams, as well as in my videos. That has, potentially until now, not been a problem. I can understand how someone could misinterpret a joke I made as truth, but I also don't feel like that should be grounds for my account being actioned. I also understand that even though something is a joke, that doesn't give you immunity from criticism, which is why I stay away from making any sort of joke that promotes racial stereotypes of discrimination. Simply put, I don't take my shoes off when I'm in my own house, but if someone asks me to while I'm in their house, I always abide by their request. I have no problem with following the rules, and I will always respectfully do so. I just need to know what they are."
Whether it was yet another case of Zach's trademark, edgy humor, or simply his cowardly way of trying to avoid any accountability for his actions, will be a mystery for only the roaches to know.
Oh, God!
What may or may not shock many viewers is the other quality Asmongold is known for, living in conditions so heinous that a medieval peasant who cleaned latrines wouldn't set foot in. Hardcore gamers have long been derided in the media for having to dedicate so many hours to their craft that they don't even have time to go to the bathroom, and live in an ever-expanding dumpster of delivery orders and poop socks. However, while there may be a certain degree of truth to players grinding to become famous or rank, keep in mind by the time the degree of sheer depravity of Asmongold's living conditions fully became public, he was a multi-millionaire at this point. Between owning one of the largest internet celebrity management networks, and based on his monthly views and sub count alone, he could easily afford to live a life of absolute luxury.
Over 20,000 subs. I still can't even fucking believe that this is even a thing. Like, I cannot fucking believe it.
Now don't get me wrong, remaining true to who you are as a person, and not letting money change you, is an admirable trait. Unless you've got the personal health of a soiled diaper.
That's pretty much my house. This is where I live.
It's cozy, I think.
But like,
Yeah.
it's 90% filled up with fucking garbage, bro. That's crazy. Oh, that's crazy.
Like, there's a huge difference between not buying a mansion because you don't need one, and living inside the carcass of a whale. If he just wanted to live a humble life, in spite of his success, that's one thing. After all, we've seen what the profound shame of being caught needing a maid to clean yourself brought to XQC. But it's not that Zach doesn't flaunt his wealth.
That? Yeah. Oh, yeah. So there were ants, right? Because if you look at like all the gray stuff, that's ready-made concrete that I put up in there so the ants don't get through.
It's that it seems like he has no desire to extend his life expectancy.
Because it's gotten so bad that, like, I feel like it might be debuffing me.
And this information hasn't been sourced through leaked conversations and Reddit threads. It's a regular fixture of his personality. Asmongold is not shy about his desire to be sewage. He's admitted on stream to going months without showering.
Now, the first thing I want to say is that there are a lot of you guys out there. You've got real jobs, you've got people that you have to see daily, maybe you have a girlfriend, maybe you have a wife, maybe you have to go out and interface with society. Well, luckily for you, I am not tethered by those earthly desires, and I'm able to dredge and delve into the depths of depravity and experience them for you.
He also claimed to not brush his teeth for prolonged periods of time in his life.
At my old videos, a lot of my old videos, you'd notice that I smile. You know, when I smile, I cover my mouth when I smile. The reason for that is this isn't Saikuno, where I don't like my smile. Yeah, well, I don't like my smile. It's not because I think it's ugly, it's because I didn't have any fucking teeth.
The walls in the background can be seen covered in blood from killing mosquitoes and then just leaving them there. And then there's the food, the deliveries, not leaving his house for months at a time and becoming dependent on takeout for survival. Rather than order delivery, and then eating, and then throwing out the food packaging, Zach simply expands his ever-growing arsenal of Wendy's bags and moldy pizza crusts, overtaking every square inch of available real estate in his apartment. The infamous trash pile-ups led to entire ecologies being formed domestically, and eventually came the rats and cockroaches.
The thing is, I used to use a dead rat as an alarm clock, actually. For my stream, because basically what happened was whenever the sun would come up, it would start cooking the corpse of the rat, and then it would start smelling again, and then the smell would wake me up. So I would use the rat effectively as an alarm clock, and as soon as it, you know, it got hot enough, it would wake me up, and then I would know, oh shit, it's time to stream.
Yes, you heard that right. At one point, Asmongold was using a dead rat as an alarm clock. And honestly, this section could be the entire video if we wanted to go into the spider mold food, or the countless stories his own fans post in the official Reddit about the horrifying things they witnessed.
There's been like a dead rat in my house for like the past fucking like 3 days, and I can't find where he is. Because you can smell the fucker, but you don't know where he is.
But the thing is, none of this is shameful to him. In fact, it's part of his brand.
It bothers me a lot that people keep bringing up like the dead rat alarm clock and the blood on the wall. And the reason why is because it's boring. Like, nobody ever brings up the barbecued puke shower curtain, the decomposing possum that I had to put in the garbage can. I picked it up and like all of its fucking ends. I was like eating bacon and grits with my mom, and then it was like, it smells bad. It's been smelling bad in the house for like 3 days. And I look behind the refrigerator and there's like a decomposing possum. I try to like pick it up. Like half of it comes out, like all of its fucking intestines like spill out onto the floor.
In 1513, the Prince Machiavelli explored the premise of how shamelessness or amorality can be a strategic asset. And little did we know, he was actually predicting Asmongold. Even the majority of people outside of his fan base can't recommend an exorcism, for it can't be weaponized against a man who is proud of his putridity.
So you think that you're gonna make fun of me for all of the things that I told people about? What is even the logic here?
And speaking of putrid, like many of the leading figures of the original intellectual dark weeb, Asmongold's expertise and focus was never in politics. In his early days, he could best be described as libertarian adjacent.
Where there's this huge victim mentality. Somebody is a victim of something, like you could say that I am a victim of poverty, I am a victim of my parents are divorced, whatever. And so these are things that I can claim that I'm a victim because of it. And people believe that because if you're a victim of something, it somehow gives your opinions more validity and also makes anything negative that you say less inflammatory because you're a victim of something else.
He would go out of his way to state in streams that he didn't want to talk about politics.
I don't want to get into like the politics stuff because the thing is that we're not going to have a conversation in good faith about this, okay? Everybody's already got their mind made up, and the people that are actually genuinely out there looking to make an opinion are probably socially adjusted well enough to where they would never watch my stream.
Cracks in Zach's mask would start to show. In 2021, he spoke out against racial slurs being used against white people.
I think the idea that you can't be racist to white people is just... it's just an excuse to be racist.
Describe a group of people based off of an immutable characteristic like a race or you know, something like that. It's bad. Listen, I think there's nothing wrong with saying the word retarded, and I think that the people that get mad about it are just fucking stupid.
When one of those two groups is demonstrably more affected by actual systemic racism, the comparison downplays the lived experience that racialized groups live through.
BLM stuff, that stuff really ramped up. It became kind of, I think, celebratory to go, fuck white people, fucking white women, white, you know.
I think that's true, and I think that did happen. If I go back and I think about what it was like during like 2020, yeah, that 100% was true. It totally dialed up. Like, I think that at that point it dialed up like anti-white racism.
While dipping his gangrene-laden toes into mild politics, his true animorphs de-evolution into Rash Limbaugh came with the Amber Heard Johnny Depp trial.
Lost as a result of Miss Heard making these allegations.
Nothing less than everything. I didn't deserve that.
Mr. Depp's team is going to try to turn this case into a soap opera.
Even just walking into this courtroom, I am harassed, humiliated in front of the world.
In 2022, a high-profile and very public lawsuit took place for the second time between Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. The second trial was in the United States and broadcast live on television and the internet. The dispute involved a defamation case made against Amber Heard for an op-ed Amber had written and published detailing the abuse that she had suffered during the height of the Me Too movement. Like any pendulum that starts to swing in one direction, this one being that women were feeling more safe to speak out about their abuse, there was an inevitable swing in the kind that women were themselves abusive and manipulators and can deceive the public to falsely accuse innocent men. After the high-profile cases of Harvey Weinstein and Bill Cosby rendered, even if temporarily, tangible victories for the victims of sexual assault, a lot of focus was placed on Johnny Depp's second defamation trial to prove a growingly unpopular Amber Heard had in fact lied. And in comes Asmongold.
They're laughing!
You know, and then he'd walk around saying,
oh my god,
he didn't have a problem.
To not only cover the entire trial in full, but weaponize it to an exploding audience of young reactionaries who adored his highly slanted takes.
I have never said that the injuries were not, like, completely staged. Does that make sense? So, like, for example, I think that there's a very good possibility, and this is what had happened. Even Johnny Depp had said that she was moving her head around, and she had hit her head into his head, right? That's whenever she said, "You headbutted me." You remember that?
As evidence came out that Amber had also physically abused Johnny Depp, the public narrative shifted to a case of mutual abuse and manipulation.
Well, as I said, I think that she is the, it's a crazy person, right? And this is the problem, is that, like, whenever you're dealing with a crazy person, you never know what's going to happen. You don't know what they're going to do. You don't know what they're going to say. It's awful.
Asmongold would constantly refer to Amber Heard as insane, a liar, and abusive. He mocked her statements and testimony constantly, and laughed at her personal deposition of abuse to a frothing chat.
Amber Heard is an abuser, and Amber Turd first appeared in 2016, correct?
I don't recall, actually.
Right. Do you recall if there was any
The two-time!
When other streamers like Pokimane defended Amber during the trial, Zach would in turn attack them.
Anybody who's supporting, like, a lot of women, this is one of the most toxic things that women do, is that they, like, just categorically defend bad actions of other women because they're women. It's pathetic and embarrassing. And I think that the main thing that it does is it just divides the sexes more, and it makes men more distrustful of women because, again, they're not making the decision based off of logic or rationality. They're making the decision based off of gender.
Asmongold's coverage became some of the most watched content of the year. He grew his profile as a political streamer dramatically and garnered millions upon millions of views on YouTube. Meanwhile, in a jury decision, Johnny Depp partially won and was awarded $10.35 million after reductions under Virginia state law, which was roughly 10% of what he originally sued her for. Now, keep in mind, The United Kingdom has a much lower standard for defamation. No necessity to demonstrate actual malice, you only have to prove a falsehood. And Johnny Depp was suing a newspaper called The Sun, not an individual. And a judge, not a jury, looked over all the evidence, including disturbing text about killing and burning Amber, recorded phone calls and videos.
She crazy, I'll get She's crazy. Oh, you're crazy. Oh, you're crazy.
Have you drunk this whole thing this morning?
Oh, you got this.
And determined that Johnny Depp was guilty of 12 of the 14 counts of abuse. He lost the trial and had to pay the Sun's entire legal fees. Amber Heard successfully sued Johnny Depp's lawyer, Adam Waldman, for defamation, when he made statements to the Daily Mail claiming that she had faked sexual violence allegations and had done so with knowing malice, and won. But because her $2 million victory paled in financial comparison to Johnny Depp's one partial win, he was seen as the victor overall. Even though reciprocal abuse is not the same thing as mutual abuse, and even mutual abuse doesn't excuse the actions of either party, a large part of the public opinion had been shaped by figures like Asmongold.
He owned my pubic bone, and he thought he was punching me.
Amber Heard was dropped from all the marketing of the Aquaman sequel and hasn't starred in or been involved in a single project since. Meanwhile, Zach was riding a high that no cooked rat carcass could ever provide. A large part of the public opinion had been shaped. By 2022, he was self-identifying as a libertarian and was already starting to rally against the growing concern that many right-leaning online personalities, especially in the gaming world, were doing towards woke culture.
Fucking pronouns! Fucking gender ambiguity! Fucking current day Californian shit!
Through very effective media manipulation, people like Chris Rufo were able to convince entire generations of right-wingers that anti-white racism was being taught in elementary schools across the country in the form of CRT. It wasn't. And when the thinly veiled white supremacist and anti-LGBTQ+ talking points set their sights on wokeness, a stolen word from AAVE, repurposed to be a catch-all term for anything they didn't like, from civil rights to workplace protection for gays, they broadened their complaining to blame it for every problem that was actually being caused by expanding wealth inequality and corporate greed. This hit the gaming world like a tidal wave of lucrative outrage farming by blaming all the problems with modern video games on wokeness.
And I know the best way for an environment to be safe is to be around people who are just like me.
I know some people who agree with that. Yeah, I know some people who, yeah.
And I'm not saying that white people in the industry.
Too many women in the industry and making characters trans. And now there's a black character in the game because woke. The sad thing is, there was a ton of things that were wrong in the industry. From terrible working conditions as a result of massive corporations crunching their non-unionized staff to the bone, corporate greed pumping out loot boxes, gambling mechanics, in-game currencies and marketplaces, $80 games that required DLC to unlock all the characters and features, all eventually became commonplace. But why make yourself brand unsafe when you can just blame all of those problems on the dreaded woke?
Whenever I'm watching like a new trailer on my stream and there's, oh my god, there's a fucking black person. Oh my god, there's a woman. And then I see my chat stream and I'll read YouTube comments. It's not just my community, guys. There's a lot of people that think this. And everybody is spamming woke. They're like, oh, woke game, woke game.
Or DEI, or Sweet Baby Inc. To his credit, Zach did spend some of his early time dedicated to calling out some of these practices, and even went as far as trying to collaborate with Senator Ted Cruz on loot box regulations. But by 2023, the marketplace and views for reactionary streamers targeting wokeness as the ultimate evil was a goldmine. Fans on Reddit even started noticing the shift, as Asmongold would start praising more and more far-right fake gamer pundits like Nerdotic and The Critical Drinker. Politically, Asmongold was leaning towards supporting Donald Trump multiple times, but had distanced himself following his clear disappointment with the 2016 January 6th coup attempt on the Capitol.
The reason why they do these bad things is because they think that they're doing a good thing. They think that they're in the right. And a lot of these people are not these secret, scheming, maniacal terrorists or whatever. These are people who have been abandoned and marginalized by society, who have turned to the internet and radicalized themselves in their own echo chamber. And as time has gone on, it's gotten worse and worse and worse. And now we're at a boiling point for a lot of those people, and we're starting to see them emerge.
Yet as the years went by, more and more focusing on anti-woke content led Asmongold to make more public anti-LGBTQ+ and reactionary takes.
Something that's really fascinating is just a few years ago you can see that even when specifically discussing the issue of trans rights, you would avoid using any terms or statements that were overtly cruel.
Are people that don't like trans people or on the other side of this issue in one way or another who do pretend to be these activists to make the activists look bad. This absolutely happens.
Then fast forward to 2024-2025, where he just sounds like a white nationalist. He's been radicalized.
Is because, like, if you're a kid and, like, you get fed a lot of propaganda and, like, messaging, like, I feel like every trans kid is actually a victim of a parent with a mental illness. That's what I believe.
A frequent theme was almost always universally supporting violent state action being used against protesters, whom he would often label as extremists, criminals, or agitators.
The United States of America will be designating Antifa as a terrorist organization. Good.
Soon his content became majorly focused on politics, oftentimes surrounding very serious issues he clearly didn't understand.
Flyers that Huntington Beach police have said they received a report about from at least one flyers.
Now, I'm not the kind of guy. Whenever I see things like this, I always get a little bit curious. I do want to say Iron Cross is not necessarily racist. It's not necessarily racist. Like, you see Iron Crosses all the time, they're not necessarily racist. But whenever I see it used in conjunction of things like this, it does make me wonder. Look at the website name. Wait, what's the website name? Let me double check. Oh, yeah, KKK Knights. Yeah, never, okay. Yeah, alright.
But hey, at least he wasn't sounding off on the highest crimes humanity can commit against one another. Witnessing the nuance and complexity Zach applied to celebrity trials, surely this quadruple-digit IQ titan was ready to take on the difficult task of reporting on the plight of Palestinians.
Justify Israel. And this is the problem, right? Is that everybody frames the conversation as who is right. I don't think that it's a case of who is right. There are a lot of wrongs, it seems, that both of them have done. This isn't a good versus evil. It's not that simple. Stop trying to act like these people are anything other than terrorists.
There's no jokes to be made here. His reporting, thumbnails, and general content focus was reprehensible and disgusting. No one is saying that people can't have opinions on topics they don't normally talk about. But when it involves 2.2 million civilians being collectively starved, bombed, tortured, imprisoned, burnt to death, and exterminated, then yes, you have to do some fucking research and read a book on the topic. As he increasingly got his news from further right-wing and conspiratorial corners of the internet, it became rapidly apparent that he was moving his position politically to further and further reactionary stances. By October 14, 2024, under a now more internationally recognized and condemned genocide, he went live and said this.
If you want to consider a genocide as a systematic killing of a group of people, they have genocide built into Sharia law right now. So no, I'm not going to cry a fucking river when people who have genocide that's baked into their laws are getting genocided. I don't give a fuck. They're terrible people. It's not even a question. It's crazy that people don't see it that way. They'd be doing the same thing. And how much did they kill? As many as they can. They're not able to kill as many people as Israel because they don't have as many bombs and as many weapons. But if they did, they'd be doing the same thing. That's it. Just takes enough. That's right. These people are not your allies. They are not the same as us. They come from an inferior culture that is horrible. It kills people for their identity, and it is directly antithetical to everything Western values stand for, and it is an inferior culture in all ways.
Outlets like The Verge, BBC, Polygon, Kotaku, and PC Gamer would characterize the comments as racist, hate speech, and dehumanizing. Popular leftist streamer Hassan Piker would invite him onto his show for confrontation on the topic. Demonstrating his clear lack of knowledge on the subject while maintaining his core positions, he did soften his stance on some of the more extreme framing when he was pressed.
Examples is like the indigenous population, right? Which is
like Native Americans?
Yes, which is ironic
Sure.
that we're having this conversation today. A lot of the early justifications of settler colonial violence was met with, well, the natives are barbaric. The indigenous population is killing one another. They're practicing bloodletting. They're cannibals and whatnot, some of which was not true at all, and others that might have been true. Now,
well, there's a lot of it that was true. I mean, they did some crazy shit down there.
So ultimately, it still does not justify the inhumane and horrific practice of full-scale genocide, which is infinitely more barbaric than anything that you could basically say about the indigenous population, right?
I would say to an extent, yeah. Like if you want to talk about like how the Spanish treated them, yeah, it was really bad.
Okay, so it's a far greater evil, right? Like
Right.
Instead of fostering a non-hostile relationship with the indigenous population and collaborating with them, instead of doing that, full-scale domination and ethnic cleansing was the far worse evil in that process, right? Because human beings are still human beings at the end of the day. You can like reason with them. You can talk to them. There is no greater evil in terms of like evil Olympics. Like genocide is up there. It's the worst thing you can do to a entire group of people.
You're totally right. I completely agree with you because like, yeah, you can't talk to them or anything like that. But what I'm saying is that I think that those people were killing others of them all the time. Like they were doing that too. This is, I mean, we're doing an evil tier list.
The next day, Twitch took action and suspended him for 2 weeks based on their hateful conduct rules. The next day, he posted on his YouTube, Zach apologized, not to Palestinians directly for dehumanizing them while they lived through a daily horror, but just generally, for being an asshole.
Mean-spirited thing to say. And I don't necessarily think that it was really racist, really, but when I'm using language like Palestinians or like the people there, rather than what my real language was, I've always been very outspoken and very against religious extremism, and I still am. I think that any religion and any way of thinking that's going to cause you to put other people in like kind of positions below you as like, gay people, women, people with disabilities, anything like that, I think that that's a really bad position to have, and I really don't like that. And I think that my problem and my fault here was that I was making a criticism of religious extremism, and I made no effort. And I feel like almost, I've rewatched the clip, right, or a number of the clips, and it's like I've almost made an effort not to draw a distinction between the two things. I think that a lot of us here can easily say that we're against religious extremism, and I am. But whenever I categorize everybody in the area as this, group, then I'm the asshole. And I was the asshole.
On his apology, Ash Parrish of The Verge would go on to say,
Hoyt's video has unintentionally shed light on a major reason that being online can feel so miserable. It's one of the rare instances of a person with such a huge following, 1.8 million followers on Twitch alone, has acknowledged that the rise of reckless, racist, homophobic, and misogynistic behavior stems from the streaming culture itself.
Surprisingly, the whole thing seemed like a massive potential change for him. He announced he was going to work on being a better and more positive person. He even did the unthinkable, and for the first time cleaned his house publicly. Maybe this was the start of something new, where some time off and a little touch grass could help steer Asmongold finally in a less reactionary direction. On January 21st, 2025, While reacting to Elon Musk making a Nazi salute twice in a row, Asmongold said out loud,
I'm not one of these Holocaust deniers. I think the Holocaust probably happened. I think probably 99% certainty it happened.
Which immediately received backlash. Hassan would once again call him out, saying,
Are you that desperate to be edgy? Come on, Asmon. What the hell is wrong with you, bro? Do I think that Asmongold doesn't think the Holocaust didn't happen? No. I think he knows that the Holocaust happened. 100% knows that the Holocaust happened.
Again, it would be downplayed as a joke. It's just a prank, bro. I mean, at this point, Asmongold wouldn't go as far as endorsing someone like, say, Nick Fuentes. I mean, he would complain various times about him getting banned on platforms and refer to him as an extreme conservative rather than an overt Holocaust-denying neo-Nazi, but he never did anything to indicate that the guy was growing on him.
A lot of people think that. You know who's been popping off a lot on TikTok? Nick. You know the Nick I'm talking about. Everybody knows. A lot of people have been talking about him. Not NMP. And because Nick Fuentes is a self-described white supremacist and says the mixed couples are disgusting. Yeah, but I've watched Dr. Umar too. I think he's funny too. What's the problem with that? So what? They're racist. Okay, that's fine. They still say some funny stuff. And every once in a while, they're right about something. So yeah, I don't give a fuck. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me at all.
So fast forward to February of 2025. After promising to clean up both his personal life and his professional one, Asmongold returned to streaming and immediately started doubling down on his reactionary coverage.
To hire someone who is a woman or isn't white or any of the things that isn't your average Valve employee profile.
Yeah, I think this right here, like videos like this, are the most corrosive and the most effective at radicalizing people against DEI or like liberal policies than Nick Fuentes, Sam Hyde, or Tony Robinson put together.
Constantly going after wokeness, DEI, or diversity, ruining everything.
So basically all he does is he just posts girls' pictures and then makes fun of them. This gentleman is the reality check. It's so fucking funny to see this stuff happening. Oh my god.
Making fun of anything related to LGBTQ+ people. And now aggressively targeting Hassan Piker.
Multiple threats on senators' lives. He's made multiple calls to violence. He promotes terrorism on his platform. Oh, what's your favorite flag? Oh, well, it's the terrorist flag.
Whom he started to believe, in no small part due to the propaganda of Ethan Klein, was a terrorist supporter.
There have been a number of quotes and statements made by individuals on this website. It's been a nice 2 days. Yep, it's been a good 2 days. And it's time to take another vacation.
And even with his limited knowledge of geopolitics, felt comfortable attacking him and other Muslim or Arab streamers who stood up for Palestine.
Do these people take what Asmon said here and extrapolate him condoning that rhetoric? Have you read the title? Are you capable of rational thought?
I think that this like anti-Islamic or anti-immigration or anti-refugee party is going to keep growing until they get big enough to where they can exercise political power. That outcome will be bad for a lot of people. And I think the outcome could have been avoided if they had been listened to earlier and decisions had been made before it got too radical.
I don't think that when they're integrated in this society, they have worked, they've started a family here, I think they should have the right to stay in Germany.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's okay.
And what is the group you guys represent on this side of the barriers here?
We present Antifa, anti-fascists. We are against them, and we fight for human rights.
I don't think that Germany has any obligation to provide any sort of life or place of living to any of these people. They have no obligation to provide it at all, and that should not be their goal. The goal of the German government should be to act in the best interest of the German people. And to the extent that it's not doing that, I think the government is betraying the people.
Eventually, while watching a town hall discussing the history of Nazi persecution of LGBTQ+ people, he finally went there and said this.
Let us remember that the Nazis burned the books that the Nazis burned
books on gender sciences.
They did do that.
First. Now the administration has villainized and marginalized migrant workers, trans.
It's a bit of a miss. Like, my understanding is that they burned them not because it was gender stuff, but because it was written in Jewish and not German. And it was like a retaking of Germany for Germans. That was like the uprising of the Nazis. So it was like, yeah, they were. I think it probably might be both in some circumstances, but like it was categorical for it not being written in German.
Now, for starters, Jewish isn't a language. Hebrew and Yiddish are. But what's far more disturbing even is the implication that Dr. Magnus Hirschfeld was only targeted by the Nazis because he was Jewish. He was Jewish and a gay man, and one of the biggest advocates for and pioneers of gender and sexual studies in human history.
Hitler's Nazi government, however, brutally targeted the trans community, deporting many trans people to concentration camps and wiping out vibrant community structures. It is estimated that more than 50,000 queer people were subjected to severe jail sentences in brutal conditions, usually in police prisons, with around 10 to 15,000 being sent to concentration camps to meet their deaths from sheer exhaustion.
He not only modernized the concept of homosexuality being an innate trait that humans are born with rather than taught through external influence, but he also performed the first successful trans bottom surgery in history. His work was revolutionary and combined multiple disciplines to advance humanity's understanding of our relationship to gender and sexuality. What is critical to understand is that the Nazis didn't target Dr. Magnus Hirschfeld because of the language his books were written in, but both because they saw his work as promoting sexual degeneracy, which they tied into a form of Jewish indoctrination. They saw homosexuality as a degenerate Jewish perversion that needed to be legislated and exterminated from society. They intentionally targeted him and his institute, eventually burning it to the ground with its research in the first mass book burning the Nazis ever did. Over 100,000 men were arrested for homosexuality, and between 5,000 to 15,000 were sent to concentration camps. They reportedly faced amongst the harshest treatment of any of the prisoners, facing backlash both from the guards and from fellow inmates. An estimated 60% of gay men died in the camps, compared to 40% of political prisoners. And if all this wasn't bad enough, he also started tweeting out comments that harkened to eugenics programs also implemented by the Nazis.
Society would instantly and dramatically improve if we took the bottom 5 to 10% most working kids out of school and put them in the coal mines instead. Almost all Western cultural problems are derived from adherence to the false god of equality.
After receiving backlash online, Asmongold finally issued a correction.
They did do that. Like, my understanding is that they burned them not because it was gender stuff, but because it was written in Jewish and not German.
Which was me misspeaking. I meant Hebrew.
And that was it. Refusing to even open up a single Wikipedia article, or I don't know, maybe the Holocaust Encyclopedia, to learn about why not only was he wrong, but was distorting aspects of the Holocaust right before his audience, leaving him at this point with little room left to not take his place amongst the most vile creatures of the internet, outside of being a pedophile. Like any extremely rich and successful streamer, Asmongold has had several public relationships with other content creators. In 2019, he went through a difficult breakup with Pink Sparkles after being together for 1 year.
Is he broke up? Yeah, we broke up this morning. It's a long story. I don't want to get into it. I don't, like, I try to keep my personal life and my private life and drama off my stream. I promised I would do that. It sucks, right? Etc. I don't, yeah, that's the way it goes.
His fans were very supportive of him, and like any devoted parasocial collective, wanted their rat king to eventually find his queen. In January of 2024, Zach shocked his fans with a special guest appearance on his live stream.
In Asmon's room, somebody tell me what the fuck is going on.
Don't worry about it.
Are you good?
What?
What are you doing with that?
So basically, I'll explain how it works, right? So I have basically, this like a game, like you ever play like Valheim? Like I know you play Valheim, right?
Brother, what the fuck is you doing?
A Chinese content creator by the name of Kaisi. Immediately, speculation began circulating if this was in fact Asmongold's new girlfriend, helped in no small part due to the style of the clips that his editing team were uploading at the time.
I literally was in this girl's stream. Have you ever done any of the ultimates? I asked a completely, I'm not asking, you know, what color are your toenails? I'm not asking turn around. I'm not saying, hi, do you have a boyfriend or something? No, I'm not doing, I'm being a totally normal, reasonable person. And I get I'm doing, look, market research, guys. You guys, you know what she said to me one time?
Not today, Satan.
Help Warp 1, engage!
Wait, did I got friend zoned?
Right now.
You didn't tell me.
She's farming, bro.
You didn't tell me to not say you smell old.
I said to tell the truth.
Yeah, you smell old.
How do I smell old?
Cause you're old? You're like 40.
But the entire situation seemed profoundly strange. While never being fully clear as to what their relationship was, this was someone, after all, who suddenly was staying at his place and appearing on his streams, leading to an explosion of popularity for Kaisi on the Twitch platform, and built an impressive audience of her own. They would continue making content together, often appearing at his house, and at one time even taking the Master of Filth on a rare IRL appearance to go on a date.
I think you just say what's logical,
That's the problem.
but you're not wrong.
But that doesn't matter.
You're just not live, laugh, love enough. You need more live, laugh, love. See, adding this watch in the fashion already makes him nicer looking, right?
The fan reactions were mixed, primarily because their interactions together seemed either hauntingly bizarre, like two people being forced to be on camera together in public, or like a couple that was trying out living together for the first time. Articles came out claiming the internet found the entire thing flat out weird, accusing her of simply using him for clout in exchange for tolerating a biohazard zone that would kill the toxic Avenger.
House doesn't smell, but it's disgusting still. I can fix it. I'll fix it. We'll fix it together. Don't worry. I'm the last hope of the Roach Kingdom.
And then after a month of inexplicably appearing on his streams, she simply disappeared from the show and continued making her own content. This wouldn't be addressed again until May 2025, when an article came out with a shocking headline. Asmongold responds to allegations that he was in a relationship with an underage individual.
The speculation comes from online websites like Famous Birthdays stating her birthday is in March of 2006, which would make her 17 at the time that she was appearing in Asmongold's house. She has also made public birthday posts in March on her Instagram, but has never confirmed directly that she was born in 2006, so it's just speculation. And in addition to that, there's not any confirmation by either party that they were in a relationship or that any abuse took place. Asmongold has publicly stated that the rumors of a 34-year-old man dating a 17-year-old are complete bullshit.
I don't give this a lot of attention. I don't really give a fuck about it. It's just bullshit, so who cares? But yeah, Son Orbers, yeah, it's just, I don't know why you'd make up shit like that. Well, actually, I do know why. It's because you're losing and you're and you're looking for anything that you can to latch onto to try to make me look bad.
But you can file the way that he created and promoted material on her, at the very least, as extremely creepy. If she was 17 at the time, he was sexualizing her before his fan base and never indicated that their age gap was something to be concerned about.
I watched it with Kaisi and so I sent her the clip of me talking about, remember whenever I said that she threatened to go Laylee on me? And then inside of her dream, my editor uploaded a clip of her doing that and she got mad.
Throwing knives and smashing cameras in a dream, huh?
Whenever my ex-girlfriend told me that she would shit on me and it wouldn't be a big deal because you could just take a shower.
And it gets worse when you look at the rest of the OTK crew, who themselves have their own controversies. Asmongold co-hosted a podcast with a streamer called Tectone, who would eventually be accused by multiple women of abuse and have a police report filed against him. He would appear with his father on Asmongold's show, a man who would later be revealed to be one of the most prolific sexual assaulters in United States military history. When streamer Hassan Piker brought up Tectone's father's history, being so horrifying that a bill was created because of him to try and protect women in the military,
thighs and buttocks, and encourage them to look at pornography computer. Some testify the harassment occurred daily. Sadly, the military careers of these 8 women who bravely did the right thing are almost assuredly destroyed.
Asmongold would respond that he was simply experiencing a generational crash out, and furthermore, that it's outrageous to bring it up.
What? Bro, like this... Oh my god, I don't even know what to say. It's outrageous, and I can't... This is what's happening, but there it is. I do think that he has been on a generational crash out ever since the situation with Ethan. I do think so.
He also initially defended the notorious child predator Guy Beam, better known as Dr. Disrespect, the largest streamer in Twitch history to be dropped from the network with no explanation given. Years later, it would be revealed that Twitch staff was aware that he had been sexting and inappropriately messaging a minor using their service and trying to meet up with her at TwitchCon, something even Dr. Disrespect would later admit to. Not before deleting it, but then adding it back in.
Not think that it is sexting a minor. I think that like trying to meet up with somebody is very, very, very different than trying to message them sexually. Like, these are all different shades of bad, but one of them is much more bad. Like, to me, that's a huge difference. Am I crazy for thinking that's a huge difference?
After it became nearly impossible to deny it, Asmongold would ultimately state,
like, I don't even know what do people want me to do? Like, just make like a one-liner about how he's like bad? Oh, I like thinking about things more interestingly. Like I do, or in a more interesting way. Like I like thinking about it and trying to work it out and figure out what's true and what's not, find out what happened. Yeah, I care about like knowing what happened more than the people that it happened to, if that makes sense.
When the only moral compass that Zach has demonstrated is centered around terms of service, it seems he's even willing to bend on that, such as when he demanded a streamer named Aiden Ross be allowed back on the Twitch platform, despite the fact that while banned, Aiden showed pornography to his live audience, many of whom are underage to view such material, constituting a gross violation of the terms of service, and yes, even a potential crime. But as long as it's not someone who he disagrees with politically, then maybe the rules were meant to be bent. And again, I have to reiterate, no one has accused Asmongold of doing anything illegal, and that based only on the information that's publicly available, it's certainly what one would call inappropriate, and the last thing you should be allowing your children to watch.
They're like, oh, it's from China. Like, I remember there were people that were conspiracy theorying about when that Chinese girl Kaisi came and she was in Austin. I was hanging out with her, and they thought that she was like a CCP agent or something like that. They were like, well, yeah. So is it true that the CCP is sending in pretty young Chinese girls in order to compromise our American streamers and American influencers? And like they had like all these examples of it, of like guys dating Asian girls, basically. Half of the Asian girls, by the way, weren't even Chinese, but it doesn't matter. Like, yeah. And I was thinking to myself, please let this be true. Please, please, please. I love China.
Do you know what a glitch is in a video game? In the simplest terms, it's when a game does something that a developer didn't intend. This can be tiny, like characters randomly floating in the air when they're not supposed to, or strange graphical effects like static appearing on the screen. There can be clipping in the walls or speed boosts that affect the gameplay, and they can also be used to cheat as well. In early arcade games like Pac-Man, hardware had much more limited memory, and programmers never assumed that gamers would push the games to their limits, and thus titles that were just meant to be played endlessly while getting incrementally harder in mathematical iterations would lead to people eventually dying and trying to reach for high scores. But humans are fascinatingly dedicated and sick creatures, so eventually players started reaching really high levels in Pac-Man, and when you reach board 256, the code wasn't capable of handling the numbers that high, and the screen splits into what became known as the kill screen. It's impossible to beat. On the left side is a regular level, and on the right is a mess of symbols and fruit, making finishing the level impossible. It's technically as far as anyone can progress in the game. For speedrunners, finding certain glitches allows them to beat games way faster than a programmer ever intended. By finding certain actions or specific series of events, people have found ways to exploit games to fast forward right to the final boss or even the end credits in record time. It's for this reason that the speedrunning community separates exploited or glitch runs from authentic speedruns as separate categories, because they're technically not representative of how the game was meant to be beaten. Glitches are as much a part of the games themselves, even if they weren't intentionally designed by the humans who created them, making them feel much more like an otherworldly personality in video games that humans didn't create. You can spend years polishing and perfecting a title to iron out these irregularities, but even AAA studio-produced titles are riddled with them because it's impossible to flawlessly perfect an open world the larger and larger you create them. In many ways, the question also gets asked when it comes to online radicalization. What caused it? Was Asmongold always a right-winger who got pushed further into extreme politics by his own community and Reddit? Was it reflective of a general sentiment of anger at what right-wingers were calling wokeness and an inevitable pushback towards it? Is it a broader discussion about gaming culture itself and the megastars it produces? All of the above? None of the above? There hasn't been a peer-reviewed academic study into the political zeitgeist of famous streamers. The effects of fame or parasocial relationships or audience capture effects from social media careers and content creation are more thoroughly studied, but even then, it's not a one-size-fits-all explainer. The truth is somewhat unsatisfying.
I used to have my mom read me all of the different sins in the Bible and everything because I understood even as a little kid. I'm like, there's something wrong with you. You better learn this so that way there aren't any problems in the future. And so I would have her read all of these to me. That way I would understand how to behave, right? Because it just never came naturally to me. Things that come naturally to other people were not natural and are not natural. It's not like things have changed. If anything, they've probably gotten worse. As I've gotten older, and so I've always had a big problem being able to understand where how you should act, how you should treat people, what you should do, how you should say things, etc. So almost everything that I do is a learned performance rather than an innate social instinct, if that makes sense.
You can point the finger at his early attitudes towards women showing their cleavage while live streaming, or his consistent edgy or racist humor as being more commonplace than people are willing to admit. An often heard commentary on Asmongold prior to 2024 was that he was a political normie, in that his opinions weren't dramatically in either direction, and he would often criticize both the left and the right in their takes and policies. One moment he could be going on about how corporations are ruining video games due to their constant greed and ruining the industry for everyone. The next, it's forced diversity or wokeness, aka representation ruining video games, and trans people being obnoxious and TikToks that are pissing everyone off. You could point towards the feedback loop present in his subreddit, where his own fans will post memes and content they want him to react to, not to mention the success that going against feminist narratives had online as producing what's known as audience capture, a phenomenon where content creators will continuously want to produce more videos based on what is generating them both the most views and money. You could point towards a regular political diet of right-wing and more conspiratorial sources, leading them to focus on stories that often, even if they're not framed in an outright white supremacist or anti-LGBTQ+ way, ultimately serve to push a narrative that reinforces that behavior. The further right his videos or clips became, the more other streamers and content creators who oppose such views began to focus on him, leading him to feel as if he's battling less with people who disagree with him, and more that it's drama-driven farming of leftists and liberals looking to defeat him because the camps and online virtue signaling is becoming more and more clear. We're always told that the internet isn't real life, but more and more it seems like the place we spend the majority of our digital time consuming is manifesting itself into various parts of government looking to reflect what they feel their base cares about. Before taking part in shaping a lot of the ethos of MAGA and Trump's administrations, Steve Bannon stated the ethos of Breitbart was that politics was downstream from culture, the idea being that by able to influence culture they could in turn influence politics. Since he saw mainstream culture in Hollywood and television as being overwhelmingly liberal, he took advantage of internet culture, weaponizing the white male rage he experienced trying to run World of Warcraft gold farming companies.
They should ban the people that do it, that's it. And also, it is bad because, bro, if you try to play a game and everybody else is botting and selling and buying gold, nothing that you do in the game matters because you're never going to outfarm a bot. You're never going to outfarm a fucking RMTer. It's the reason why pay-to-win games suck.
In the past few years, it's been its own lucrative goldmine to farm culture and produce outrage porn content surrounding it, complaining about everything from feminism to diversity, ruining Western civilization. What was once talking points relegated to corners of 4chan now seems to be active administrational policies of the Trump doctrine.
Office. You can see him there at that meeting with Cyril Ramaphosa. Now, it includes how he used the articles there to illustrate what he claimed were burial sites in South Africa. Well, this, in fact, was a picture from the Democratic Republic of Congo.
So how can they make it all seem so real? Well, they've discovered a glitch, if you will. A glitch that they exploit. Accounts like Libs of TikTok, or Andy No, or End Wokeness / Jack Posobiec work in large part to take clips specifically curated to incite emotion. They can be a trans or gay person being very angry or opinionated, a black person committing a crime, or a white feminist coming across as overly aggressive. Then these clips are spread through tens of thousands of shares and reacted to by other pundits. This amplifies the way a single video can suddenly seem like it's affecting, in a parasocial way, every person who ends up seeing it, regardless of their politics.
Nobody would have had a problem with you doing what you want to do, but you have to carry around a fucking cross everywhere that you go and beg for people to nail you up to it.
Does every single trans person demand they put a trans flag in public parks? No, they rarely do. But the one time it happened, it gets shared everywhere online and suddenly it feels like a much bigger problem than it is.
Who take issues like rightful suspicion of big pharma, rightful anger at big tech, rightful anger at the elites, and flip it to transphobia, xenophobia, racism, and here I'm thinking about figures like Giorgia Meloni, who is, a protege of Steve Bannon's.
It creates artificial outrage. It exploits anger and emotion. And social media algorithms help propel the entire pipeline due to the incentivization divisive content generates. You don't even have to be aware that you're part of the entire cycle. You can just be a regular streamer who used to play a lot of video games and now has to talk about how immigrants and crime are out of control, and it doesn't need a dedicated Fox News spin team to make it all possible. Thanks to modern technology and new media, a single streamer can reach as many people as a multi-million-dollar empire. I told you Black Mirror has nothing on the modern world.
Anti-intellectualism has been a constant thread winding its way through our political and cultural life, nurtured by the false notion that democracy means that my ignorance is just as good as your knowledge.
Now here's where the exploit comes in. A lot of the groups that Asmongold targets regularly don't hold a lot of structural or institutional or capital power in the United States. There are barely any trans politicians in the United States. There's one trans Fortune 500 CEO. There's only one trans billionaire. For Palestinians, there's even less representation in the political or capitalist system. The reason I keep mentioning their wealth or political power is because, like a lot of the right, Zach brings up and talks a lot about universal concerns that everyone has. Fear of government overreach, fear of rising income inequality, fear of a lack of housing, fear of mass surveillance, fear of violence or crime, fear of the loneliness epidemic, or social media destroying society. But he never calls out the groups or corporations or people responsible for any of these problems.
The executive order aims to stop this by forcing financial institutions to justify their decisions based on individual, objective, and risk-based analysis. The key difference is simple. Risk-based analysis is about measurable financial threats. Reputational risk is about feelings and public opinion. The new
Hoes mad.
Rather than regularly speak out against big tech overlords or fascistic governments or lobbying and super PACs destroying the political system, or how much of the United States and its vast wealth is put into the military-industrial complex or the exploitation of resources in other countries, justifying military interventions, instead, it's trans kids and wokeness and immigrants and culture war bullshit replacing who's actually screwing everyone over under capitalism. It's a distraction. The people who are in power and screw over millions of workers by stealing their wages or not paying them living wages or firing thousands of employees to raise stock value all get a pass. The politicians who take millions in lobbying and super PACs all get a pass. The billionaires who own all the media empires in the world who promote all these narratives all get a pass. Any vilification or anger directed towards immigrants in the name of patriotism directly benefits and protects the very people who fuck over working class Americans every single day. And it's the same situation in Canada, or the UK, or Germany, or any other country where there's a rising hatred of trans people and immigrants. The real people who control the world, who oppress you, who make your lives harder get to sit back while everyone who is poorer than them fight each other? Why get mad at your boss for not giving you a promotion when you can spend all day raging online over a few trans kids who no longer get to play sports? Why criticize the companies that replace thousands of hardworking Americans with AI automation? Why blame the speculative market or massive corporations like Blackstone or Pretium Partners or American Homes for Rent or Tricon Residential or Cerebus Capital Management, who buy up tens of thousands of homes in the US and jack up prices and own enough properties to house entire cities, when you can blame poor people fleeing shitty living conditions in their home country? It's not subversive or clever. It's just a multi-millionaire clown deep-throating the corporate class while thinking he's the only one willing to tell the truth about how the world really is.
It's like Dominic to be labeled Islamophobic and fascist.
And Jean-Claude...
What the fuck?
Juncker, the Commission President, says that you're racist. You sound proud of the fact that you haven't taken any refugees.
Of course, because this is what our people are expecting from our government.
He doesn't even need to be owned by Rupert Murdoch or work for a billionaire to spread the same propaganda for free. So Asmongold remains the most watched streamer in the world. He's successfully grown his base multiple times over by first taking in the World of Warcraft and gaming community, then absorbing the red pill and misogyny community, then bringing in the right-wing and reactionary community, and finally, bringing over the anti-immigrant, anti-Muslim, pro-police, and anti-Palestinian communities into a megatron of far-right extremism. He's not talked about in the mainstream press as a potential mass influencer on young men in the same breath that Andrew Tate or Joe Rogan is.
That brought many of these young men into the arms of the likes of a Joe Rogan, right? My sons love a Pat McAfee, the Nelk Boys, all of that. I absolutely get that.
And isn't even a topic of conversation in the Great Democratic Project to create liberal doppelgangers of the right's domination of online media. His moral compass, which professes to be based on rules established by corporations, seems to be more of a biblical interpretation of reality that he can alter to suit his needs or beliefs at any given time. The nicer he says he's interested in becoming, and the cleaner he was going to make his room, only lead to him becoming more nasty in both directions.
The main issue. It's not gay, it's certainly not bi, and it's absolutely not lesbians. It's trans. That's where all of the hostility, all of the negativity comes from. Yes, and trans should not be involved with LGBT.
In another generation, people like Zach Hoyt would have never made it to the highest peaks of media fame within a traditional structure. They're just not that interesting to people. Like James Lindsay or Sam Harris, their field of expertise that lends them credibility or fame is not related to the endless social commentary they provide.
So Zach is hate watching this right now, or one of his fans got this far in the video. I don't know if telling you any of you guys the real statistics will change your minds.
That nearly half of all trans people have experienced sexual assault at some point in their lives. That 1/3 of trans women have reported having trouble getting jobs due to their gender identity. That trans adults have a poverty rate of double the national average. And 40% of all youth experiencing homelessness are LGBTQ+. Or when it comes to Palestine, how it currently hosts the largest amount of child amputees in the entire world. That half the population of Gaza are children who weren't old enough to even vote Hamas into power. And that while recording this, they're currently experiencing a stage 5 famine, which is entirely human-made due to forced starvation Israel is imposing upon them as part of their genocide. For some people, they need to see it with their own eyes. For others, they need to hear a story, like that of Hin Rajab's. Did Zach ever wonder when he was laughing at the student protesters at Columbia why they named their hall Hin's Hall? On January 29, 2024, a 5-year-old Hin Rajab, alongside 6 members of her family, were fleeing Gaza City when their vehicle was shelled by the Israeli army. None of them were combatants, and hellfire rained down upon their vehicle, killing every single one of her family members before her eyes, except for Hind and her cousin, sitting in a car filled with bullet-ridden corpses of her aunt, her uncle, and her 3 cousins. Rajab's 15-year-old surviving cousin managed to call the Palestinian Red Crescent Society for emergency aid. On the phone while asking for help, Rajab could be heard screaming before machine gun fire killed her cousin as well. leaving only a blood-covered 5-year-old Hin to answer when the PRCS called back. She had been injured in the back, the hand, and the foot, but still managed to plead in tears with the PRCS to come save her. After hours of waiting, the PRCS said they were given approval to send an ambulance, with clearance from the IDF to receive safe passage to rescue her. For hours she spoke on the phone in tears, begging for help, while sitting in a car surrounded by the decomposing bodies of her family. Their fate was unknown until a few days later, when both the rescue ambulance and what remained of Hin were found near each other, completely destroyed. Doors covered in bullet holes, Hind alongside the 2 ambulance workers who were coming to rescue her, had all been executed by Israel. Despite being promised safe passage, despite surviving all that time, not even a miracle was allowed to exist in all that darkness. In 2024, Netflix released a documentary called The Remarkable Life of Ibelin. It tells the story of Matt Steen, a Norwegian kid born with a rare disease called Duchenne muscular dystrophy. As he grew into his teenage years, he became increasingly immobilized, eventually relegated to only being able to move parts of his right hand. His family suffered immensely, thinking that he would never be able to live a normal life where he could make friends, go on adventures, and eventually find love. After his passing at age 25, something miraculous happened. His parents started to be flooded with detailed emails of condolences, speaking about how much he had touched their lives. At first they didn't believe them, thinking it must be part of some cruel online prank. Soon enough, however, they discovered that because he had been spending so much of his final years playing a video game online, that he in fact had lived an entirely different life as a character in an MMORPG called World of Warcraft. There he had joined a guild called Starlight and kept his physical condition a secret so as not to be treated different, communicating entirely through text chat. With over 20,000 hours in the game, there was an entire universe of lived experiences that the guild was eventually able to share with his parents. He was a highly respected hero and warrior, to the shock of his father a bit of a ladies' man, and in many instances, actually helped other people around the world get through some of the most difficult and dark parts of their lives, all connected through a video game, where none of them knew who he was in real life. Watching the film, you can't help but be left with a sense of hope, that while we can use our technology and information and connections in some cases for the most profound evil, in others we can use it for good. We can inspire one another. We can help one another.
It just takes seeing the world through a different lens, or in this case, screen. This level of pageantry, if you think that these amazing costumes are worth funding, not to mention the amount of research and time and dedication it takes to make one of these videos, please consider going over to patreon.com/theserfs. Even for as little as $1, you can unlock uncensored episodes, bonus content, and stuff that we can't post anywhere else. So again, patreon.com/theserfs is the only way that really makes this possible. We wouldn't be able to do it without your support, and genuinely, I can't thank every single one of you for allowing me to be the theater kid I always dreamed of being when I was a child.
Thank you.